So the life cycles again, but this time we focus on teenage. Because teenage is an amazing 7 years cycle in our lives, and it's the foundation for a lot of good things, and also the matter for working on a lot of things that might have gone wrong. But let's focus for a moment on the good things. Teenage is the moment where there's this, of course, this enormous hormonal explosion, and sex energy gets activated because in the tribal times, that was the moment that boys and girls became able to reproduce and become useful members of the tribe for the survival. So teenage didn't exist. But now that we are more refined and probably also more fucked up, both, teenage exists. It's a more recent acquisition, and it's amazing because it is a time where sexual energy awakens, and sexual energy is the fuel for all forms of life energy. So from the beginning, of course, there's a lot of excitement, horniness, shame, embarrassment, desire when it awakens. And also there is the possibility to use that same energy for loving relationships or works of art or enlightenment even as we grow up. But it's not the only thing of teenage. There's also another very interesting phenomenon, which is that in the brain, the frontal lobes get activated, and they are the latest development of the human brain. So you have the neocortex, which is about rational thinking, and the frontal lobes, if you check it up, if you Google it around, it is about future thinking. It's about moving and future thinking. So it is the time, if we translate it in more psychological and spiritual terms, it is the time when we develop the capacity for vision and for longing, for dreaming things that we want to do, dreaming where we want to be, dreaming how we want to be, dreaming the whole world new. I don't know how many of you have seen this amazing demonstration that took place a couple of months ago in the US, in Washington. 1 million teenagers demonstrating against the use of weapons, the unlimited, uncensored use of weapons. And they looked amazing. They looked so present and so focused on the future. And somehow this is the potential. It's a potential that makes a real rebel, not somebody that reacts and fights against, but somebody that has an unlimited capacity for dreaming something that maybe in normal terms would be considered impossible. That's the kind of energy where humanity can make leaps, and we ourselves can make leaps into unknown territory. So that's the essence of teenage. And it's amazing because that essence lives untouched inside us. It's still there and it's still waiting to be rediscovered. But there are two ways of connecting or becoming the teenager that we carry inside. One way is the way of essence. One way is the way of carrying that flavor, that fresh wind of change into our lives now, and experiencing undiluted passion for life in whatever expression it takes at this moment in our process of growth. And this is beautiful, this is really needed, and somehow it's becoming more and more relevant in this world that moves so fast, and where things always either get destroyed or renewed. So that's what we need. That's the fuel for our dreams. On the other hand, we can also become the teenager by entering a state of regression. And regression simply means when events of now bring you back to the past, to unresolved situations that still hurt inside. So whenever we get very reactive, or whenever we get very embarrassed, whenever we get very revengeful, we are back in teenage, but unconsciously. Somehow we don't know. We don't know that this is happening, and it drives us. It drives us simply not because it's a bad thing, but because there are things that happened in our teenager time that we have not addressed, that we have not completed, that we have not healed, and therefore they keep on playing. And it's something that we all know, those moments where we become blind with something, and there is a force that drives us, which is not anymore hormone-based, but it's based on a wound. And this force wants to react, and sometimes reacts in an exaggerated form compared to what is really happening in the surrounding. That's the wounded teenager. That's the part of us that couldn't complete, that felt shamed, that felt robbed of its enormous power, that had to be tested and tempered and molded by the circumstances of life, but nevertheless was a very big power. And so whenever we get into that reactiveness, it has something to do with feeling shamed, wanting to take revenge, wanting to drive it to the extreme. That's the inner teenager that is trying to bring us something to our attention. And it's true, these things that brood inside us and create this reactiveness need attention, need to be addressed, but not in that way, because reaction over reaction over reaction won't heal the wound that lies underneath. Nevertheless, we need to give time, space, and attention to the teenager inside us, and at the same time, we need, parallel to that, at the same time, we need to find back our dreams. We need to find back our longing. We need to remember what we were yearning for as a teenager. It might be completely covered up by practicalities, by having to grow up, by acquiring a sense of reality, which partly is good because we need to move, we need to orientate in this world, but it can become enclosing, it can become limiting if we cannot dream. And whenever we open the door to the longings and the dreams and the visions of a teenager, a new inspiration is born, a new way of looking at reality, a new way of playing, of testing, of experimenting, exploring. And this can happen even when we are 80 years old. It doesn't matter at all what age we are. What matters is that we honor our dreams.